Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday celebration of Unity of Reading. Today is Sunday, February 28th, and our daily word is connection. I honor my connection with all people. No matter how great the distance that exists between me and the people I care about, I know we are connected by our love for one another. Today, I reestablish and strengthen this connection by reaching out, even if it's only to let someone know I'm thinking of them. Our connection is also kept strong through prayer. As I pray for those I care about, I bless them by holding my highest vision for their lives, seeing them as healthy, prosperous, happy, and fulfilled. Whether you're in frequent contact or have fallen out of touch, my connection with my loved ones remains strong because we are one in God, one in love. And from 1 Corinthians 12:13, for in the one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit. That's a great daily word for today's message. So I've been discussing how we can look at the principles of unity and spiritual law and put this knowledge to use to improve the societal issues that we're experiencing in life today. As a reminder, the Bible talks many times about the iniquities of our fathers. The metaphysical definition of the Bible term iniquities is the mental habits that shut God out of our consciousness. Being punished by the iniquities of our fathers means we are punishing ourselves by continuing to hold on to these mental habits, the erroneous thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes that we have picked up along our way that are shutting God out of our consciousness. Interestingly, research has identified different parenting practices and experiences which will most likely result in prejudice, stereotyping, scapegoating, obedience, bystander apathy, discrimination, and violent role-playing. Knowing the spiritual laws or about the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters is not enough. As Unity's fifth principle states, if we sincerely are looking for change in our life, we must discipline ourselves to live these principles. They must become part of our everyday consciousness. I've done much researching and meditation to put these messages together in a way to make it meaningful in a spiritual way, but to also make it evidence-based in an applicable and practical way. I have said many times that Jesus and Buddha were the greatest psychologists who ever lived, and many of their teachings, and really the teachings of the entire Bible in a metaphysical way, are now backed with evidence through scientific and psychological research. Jesus, Buddha, and most of the great spiritual masters taught us the importance of right thinking, which leads to right action. They taught us all our problems are of our own making, and therefore we are the only ones that can produce change. The importance of oneness, love, and acceptance has been taught through the ages. The golden rule is stated in different ways in almost all religious and spiritual texts. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Jesus stated, love your Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandments greater than these. Buddha is quoted saying, love the whole world as a mother loves her only child. All the great masters and spiritual teachers throughout the years teach us as spiritual beings. Love is our true nature. So if this is true, why are we humans still in the conditions we're in today? Why is crime still an issue? Why is distress and rioting happening? Why is there still hatred, discrimination, and racism? Why do we look at the world as us and them? Of course, the main answer is that just because all the great spiritual masters taught these things, they are in most every religious text, not many people are truly living them. That is why the fifth principle of unity is so important. It's not enough to know these truths or spiritual laws. We must live them. They must become a part of our daily experience, a part of our being. A Course in Miracles states, the Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of one's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. Consciousness transformation is removing the blocks to the presence of love and living in the awareness of God's presence. Many researchers in the past have studied the Holocaust in an attempt to understand how something that horrific could have happened. Why and how could human beings act in such a horrendous way to one another? A group of researchers created a theory which was adopted for use by the Anti-Defamation League called the Pyramid of Hate. It is hoped that by identifying the steps or stages which led to the Holocaust could be used to prevent anything like this happening again in the future. Today, I want to title my message Pyramid of Love, because if we can understand how the pyramid of hate is produced, we can work on changing that manifest a pyramid of love. Some psychological phenomena which can explain some of the current stream of consciousness and how consciousness truly does affect our lives and the current situation surrounding our experiences are learned helplessness, self-fulfilling prophecy, Pygmalion effect, cognitive dissonance, along with classical conditioning. I mentioned some of these last week as well. Poverty, welfare, unemployment, racism, prejudice, gender and sexual orientation discrimination, and drug abuse are among some of the main issues that plague our society and country today. Last week I addressed poverty, long-term unemployment, and welfare. We must realize that trying to change these issues by some physical act, meaning handing out money or making new laws and regulations, might make some positive impact, but will have no significant, long-lasting impact of change. Long-lasting, meaningful change must come through consciousness transformation. It has been said, you can't solve a problem at the level it was created. We cannot transform lower vibration consciousness from a lower consciousness. We must elevate our consciousness for change to occur. As it is Black History Month, let us look at some of the issue of racism and prejudice. This can also be applied to discrimination and prejudice regarding gender, sexual orientation, religious, cultural beliefs, and any other form of prejudice leading to discrimination. In his musical South Pacific, Rodgers and Hammerstein set to music how classical conditioning principles play a part in stereotyping and prejudice. The song goes, "You've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drummed into your dear little ear. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are oddly made and people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late, before you are 6 or 7 or 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught." We know that a stereotype is widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. Scapegoating is a particular pernicious form of stereotyping. It involves selecting an individual or group based on things such as sex, race, ethnicity, nationality for negative treatment. Often these individuals or groups are inaccurately blamed for unfortunate events or circumstances. Stereotype threat refers to concern that one's action may fulfill a negative cultural stereotype of one's group. Such concerns may, paradoxically, lead to the fulfillment of those stereotypes. A self-fulfilling prophecy is a psychological term used to describe a prediction that causes itself to become true. Self-imposed prophecies occur when your own expectations influence your actions, either consciously or unconsciously. Basically, self-fulfilling prophecy research has shown evidence for the biblical teaching, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is." The Pygmalion effect is a type of other imposed self-fulfilling prophecy that states the way you think of someone or treat someone has a direct impact on how that person acts. Therefore, the process by which a person's expectations about someone can lead to that someone behaving in ways that confirm the expectations. Learned helplessness is a condition in which a person suffers from a sense of powerlessness arising from a traumatic event or persistent failure to succeed. It is thought to be one of the underlying causes of depression. Research on learned helplessness has shown that when people feel like they have no control, they tend to simply give up and accept their fate. This was pointed out last week in regards to generational welfare. In the classroom, a Pygmalion effect occurs when a teacher holds expectations for students, which, through social interaction, causes students to behave in such a manner as to confirm the originally false, but now true, expectation. Typically in the past, teachers have held thoughts that Black students and students of lower economic status were not as intelligent and would not learn as quickly. Having this belief, she or he acted differently towards them, either consciously or unconsciously, which caused a prophecy, although false, to become true. The day after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King in 1968, Jane Elliott, an Iowa schoolteacher, devised an exercise for her third-grade students. Most children in Iowa at that time had never seen a black person. She asked them if they would like to participate in a lesson on what it feels like to be a person of color in the United States. They agreed, and she divided them into two groups, those with blue eyes and those with brown eyes. Blue-eyed students were told they were superior and seated in the front rows of the class, and brown-eyed students sat in the back rows. Blue-eyed children were instructed to only play with each other and to ignore the brown-eyed children. The two groups were not permitted to drink from the same water fountains. Sure enough, similar to the results obtained by Zimbardo in the Stanford prison experiment, the students quickly adopted to their new roles. Blue-eyed children behaved in a bossy and arrogant manner, whereas brown-eyed children became passive and submissive. It did not take long for this to happen. There have been many remarkable research projects on all of this phenomena, which I will not go into, but are incredibly interesting if you want to do your own research. But I want to have everyone pause for a moment and deeply consider the effect that constant marginalizing, discrimination, and stereotyping would have on any individual or group of individuals. The bottom line is, all opinions, attitudes, and beliefs can hold this prophecy. Thus, what we believe and hold in consciousness, we experience in our reality. The third unity principle says we create our reality through our way of thinking, another way of saying, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. Remember Jesus' warning, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. When we do not acknowledge the God within everyone, when our words or actions express and teach anything other than love to anyone, we are causing them to stumble. We are teaching them to forget who they are. Judge not, but judge only by righteous thinking, and do unto others as you would have done unto you. The Bible is loaded with stories of people fleeing from oppression. We must realize the oppression we are fleeing from is our own human consciousness, our own erroneous thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs. The Bible tells us our greatest enemies are in our own household, meaning in our own minds. We all have the responsibility to search our minds and hearts and to be honest about the beliefs, attitudes, and opinions we have chosen to accept as our own. If anyone holds on to anything other than the highest vision of another person, they are the ones causing that person to stumble and therefore become part of the problem instead of part of the solution. Black History Month is incredibly important and should not stop at the end of this month. I believe that it is awesome that more education is being put out regarding the impact African Americans have made in our society, to dispel past misconceptions, judgments, and stereotyping. In the field of psychology, cognitive dissonance occurs when a person holds contrary beliefs, ideas, or values and is typically experienced as psychological stress when they participate in an action or is exposed to new information that goes against one or more of their previous beliefs. By having more people, especially our children, exposed to the truth, opinions and beliefs will change, and therefore behavior will change, and with that, transformation in consciousness, we will see long and lasting unity among all of God's children. Many people have changed their beliefs through living experiences, realizing the stereotypes they held were not true. I believe there have been many, many huge improvements over the decades. When my parents got married in the 1940s, interracial marriages were not seen and very much frowned upon. When I got married in the 1970s, more interracial marriages were seen and it was becoming more accepted. Today, interracial marriages are commonplace. Stereotypes and discrimination of women has declined as women are proving themselves in the workplace in positions of power. Same-sex marriages are now legal and becoming more accepted. I have performed many same-sex marriages, especially when they first became legal. The majority of couples I married had been living together quietly for 20 to 30 years. They lived in a higher consciousness, did not accept the opinions of others, and lived and loved who they are. We are told not to resist evil, but overcome evil with good. What we resist persists. It is not about fighting against, but instead living in love, in a higher state of consciousness. And these are just a few examples. Martin Luther King Jr. knew this and could initiate incredible changes through love, through a higher state of consciousness. I believe all these positive changes shows a progressive shift in consciousness, as generations do not want to blindly accept the beliefs or the iniquities of their fathers, and they begin seeing life through a higher level of consciousness. We obviously are not at the place we want to be or we need to be yet. What we need to do now is to look at and focus on the positive changes, however. Be grateful for the change happening, instead of dwelling in the past and keeping the past in our present experience. Remember, we should not resist evil, but overcome evil with good, focusing on what we want to see, not focusing on what is wrong. We just need to move forward and have faith in divine order. We cannot look at the past or dwell on wrong past doings, and if and when we do, it should be for understanding and awareness for how to make changes so that the same thing doesn't happen over and over again. As Jesus taught, no one who puts his hand to the plow and then looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. Paul wrote, "Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the highest mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Jesus Christ." This in no way is to place blame or excuses on anyone in any situation, but a call for self-responsibility to all people. It is for each of us to search within our own hearts and minds and ask ourselves, what is it for me to do, for me to change? We must all realize the truth of who we are and see the truth of who all other human beings are. We are all created in the image and likeness of God, with all the same divine qualities and possibilities. We need to see everyone as brothers and know everyone was created in the image and likeness of God and acknowledge those possibilities within them. We must know our oneness, yet embrace and respect each other's uniqueness. We must live the golden rule. We must let go of the past and live today the change that we wish to see. For what we focus on, we keep in our experience. Remember the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Once we realize, truly know who we are, we will not accept any less opinion of ourselves than the opinion of our Creator. And God thinks you are awesome. Once we truly know this truth and live it, this truth shall set everyone free. The choice is ours. In John verse 9, the story goes, "As he went along, he saw a blind man from birth. His disciple asked him, 'Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?' 'Neither this man nor his parents sinned,' said Jesus, 'but this happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life.'" Right now, many are living in spiritual blindness, not recognizing their own spiritual power or recognizing the spiritual power in others. Living in spiritual blindness is both placing limits on ourselves and accepting the limits that others have placed on us. Perhaps we can look at this as a great opportunity to allow the work of God being displayed in our life, in our lifetime, producing great changes in our present experience. Again, taking responsibility to make changes is power. Blaming is giving our power away. I want to end with a powerful poem written by James Patrick Keeney. 6 humans trapped in happenstance, in dark and bitter cold. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story's told. Their dying fire in need of logs, the first woman held hers back, for of the faces around the fire, she noticed one was black. The next man, looking across the way, saw not one of his church, and couldn't bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. The third one sat in tattered clothes. He gave his clothes a hitch. Why should his log be put to use to warm the idle rich? The rich man just sat back and thought of the wealth he had in store and how to keep what he had earned from the lazy, shiftless poor. The black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from sight, for all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. The last man of this forlorn group did not accept for gain. Giving only to those who gave was how he played his game. The logs held tight in death's still hand was proof of human sin. They didn't die from the cold without. They died from the cold within. Everyone, we are at a crossroads. The choice is ours. Will you choose to hold on to your log or throw it in to ignite the flame burning in your own heart? Looking at the ongoing issues of prejudice, racism, discrimination of all types, perhaps we need to begin to look again at consciousness on everyone's part, these attitudes and beliefs that we hold in mind. We can understand how our lower human consciousness has caused the issues, so trying to solve them by human efforts such as new laws and regulations may help some, but the way to long-lasting positive change will only come through a shift to a higher state of consciousness. We all play both parts, the oppressor and the oppressed, as long as we hold thoughts that keep God out of our consciousness. We need to release the blocks to love for ourselves and others. The bottom line is that if you wish to see your world transform into an experience of love, peace, and unity, then you must be the love you wish to see in the world. Expressing the love you are is the best way to ensure that you are walking the unity talk and living in sync with the spiritual laws. Let this generation be the change that we wish to see, where we focus on how we are the same while respecting our uniqueness, focus on what is within, and live life from a higher perspective, a transformed consciousness. Let us live through love, and express only love, which is our true nature. And so it is. And I'll take some of these thoughts into meditation. As you get comfortable wherever you are, and I invite you to take a deep breath in and know that the same air that you breathe in has been breathed in by Jesus, by Buddha, by other races, by other people of religion, by other cultures. As you breathe in, feel your oneness. Your oneness with God, and your oneness with each and every person that breathes in the same air. I invite you to let go of your human thoughts. Shut out the outside world. As Jesus said, when you pray, go into your closet and shut the door. He said, be still and know. Be still and know that I am. Whatever was in your past, even if the past was just yesterday, make a commitment to let it go. And focus on now, this present moment. For in this present moment, in the stillness, you know who you are. You know you are love. You know you are worthy. You know you are God's child, worthy of the kingdom. And it's God's great pleasure to give you the kingdom. As we truly establish this truth in our consciousness, we will not allow the thoughts of anyone else to make us think differently, to make us believe that we're any less worthy, any less loved. Feel the love within your heart. See the flame of love increase as you stoke it with gratitude. Gratitude for this day. Gratitude for this moment of change. This moment to elevate your thoughts and your feelings. To develop new attitudes and new ways of thinking. As you feel this love of oneness permeate your entire body, see it radiate from you and touching all that are around you. As this love and this oneness radiate from you, see it elevate others so that they too know who they are. Let the Christ within you see the Christ within each and every person, no matter what their gender, race, sexual orientation, religious beliefs. Know we are all connected. As the Bible says, we are one in the body of God. Know your worthiness and acknowledge the worthiness of others. For as you sow, so shall you reap. If there's forgiveness that needs to happen, loose it and let it go. Take this time to allow the work of God to shine through you. Be grateful for this opportunity for change, this opportunity to be God's messenger, this opportunity to show others who you are. This opportunity to express the love that you are. Ask your inner being, for your inner being always knows what it is for me to change? How can I see things differently? How can I express more of my love today? In your mind, visually imagine the world coming together hand in hand, greeting one another, acknowledging one another as brothers and sisters. As you're holding hands, feel the love and the energy flow through you to the next person. Know the truth. Know the truth of yourself and the truth of all living beings. For we are all one in the body of God. Make a commitment to express only love, to be the change that you wish to see, to lift others up, to love and acceptance, forgiveness and gratitude. Know that as we change our consciousness, we will see the changes in the world that we wish to see. Focus on those loving changes. See the world the way you wish it to be. And know that the truth shall set us all free. And so it is. Amen.